Therapy is keeping people broken. To me, this is pretty clear, but to this culture and to this world, it's not very clear at all. If anything, therapy is treated as a necessity, and almost everyone I know is going through some type of therapy. If you're new to my channel, I'm going to already say this, so I don't have to say it later. I say this in almost every video. I'm speaking in general terms here. Of course, I know there are exceptions to the rule. I'm never speaking in total. I'm speaking in general terms. So take with that what you will. Therapy is selfish. Therapy promotes a selfish ideology. Therapy promotes self-worship. Therapy is a form of self-idolatry. When you go to therapy, you are constantly talking and repeating your problems with another individual. You are constantly talking about yourself, how you feel, how something made you feel, what happened, what went wrong, why it's not your fault, what you can work on. They are just there to validate your feelings. Viktor Frankl said, when a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, he distracts himself with pleasure. That's happening all the time, all around us. If you can't see it, you better start looking. But I'm gonna tell you guys something I did. I did a social experiment a couple months back. I signed up for therapy to prove a point. I had been saying for a few years to the people around me that I thought therapy was a scam. The same thing I'm saying in this video. You're going to hear all my thoughts on therapy. I've been saying these things for a while. And, people don't want to hear it. The average person, they don't agree with you. They just can't see how that could possibly be a reality. So I signed up for therapy. I wanted to do a personal experiment just for my, I guess you would say, knowledge, my understanding. I wanted to be able to claim my opinion and come from a place where I experienced what I was talking about. I wanted to validate my opinion more. I didn't want to just come from this place of outside looking in. I wanted to come from a place of, okay, I can now say for certain that my opinion is what it is. So I signed up for therapy and I did go. I went for probably, I don't know, 2 to 3 months. I consistently went every other week or something like that. And what I gathered from going there right off the bat, there was never any growth in the conversation. It was always stagnant. It was always talking about how I felt or how things made me feel or why did I feel that way. There was never any proactive conversation of, this is what it is, this is how it is, and you need to get over it. Because in my opinion, therapy is just a self-rumination on issues. It is making things your identity and living that way for the rest of your life. It's saying, I have a problem and I'm just learning how to accept that as part of my identity. And I think that that's absolutely ridiculous. I honestly think that's absolutely ridiculous. I think the victimhood mentality is absolutely crap. I think all these things are becoming normalized to, well, like I said in the beginning of the video, to form a self-worshiping mindset. And it's all about me. It's all about how it makes me feel. It's all about, what did they do to me? I'm not wrong, but I need to learn how to deal with what they're doing to me. Or things like that. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. So what I really gathered from my time in this experiment of mine was that this was an absolute and utter waste of time. I can 100% see why people that go to therapy are the way they are. Because if you take a look at somebody before they go to therapy and after they go to therapy, a lot of the times they'll come out with a lot more verbiage and articulate words, especially women like to use. It's absolutely humorous because these people actually have no idea what they're talking about. They're just picking up words from therapists and they're acting like they have knowledge when in reality they're the exact same as they were when they first went to therapy in the first place. You sit there and you complain. You complain and another person validates your complaints. You just sit and you stay. You sit and you sit and you sit in your problems instead of moving on from them. They become who you are. I mean, you could almost talk to any woman nowadays and she's going to tell you about her traumas. She's going to tell you all about trauma this, trauma that, anxiety this, anxiety that, It's not normal to be that way, especially for the average everyday person. Okay, a veteran, okay, that's a whole different story. But why are people going to therapy that are living everyday normal lives? Why is a heartbreak putting you in therapy? Why is feeling lonely leading you to go enroll yourself into therapy? Why is feeling a little bit anxious about something leading you to go into therapy? These are normal human experiences. Stop trying to run away from them. Well, that just leads me into my next point. Actually, I don't even plan these videos. I just go off of my thoughts and while I'm talking to you guys. That leads me to my next point, actually, is this whole society is about pleasure and feeling good. So I guess the therapy aspect ties into that of, I don't want to do anything that doesn't make me feel good. So if it makes me feel uncomfortable, it's a problem, and that's not normal. You know, young people today, I'll hear it in conversations all the time. They label everyone with something. They label everybody, this person's autistic, this person has this person has OCD. What are you talking about? This person has ADHD. These things are what make humans different. What is the normal person? I've never met the normal person in my life. Like, if I look at a person and I say, oh, they have autism, they have OCD, they have ADHD. Okay, what am I comparing them to? If that's the case, I don't think I've ever met a normal person. These are individual characteristics that make people unique. Stop trying to normalize, stop trying to label everything as a mental health problem or a I don't know, neurological issue. Stop trying to categorize people. Stop trying to put people down for having gifts. Think about it. In humanity, when humanity first came to be of existence, you had tribes. You had to survive in the wilderness, okay? I don't think the tribe was made up of Joe, Jimmy, John, and Adam, and all of them were the exact same. No, Joe probably had a little bit of ADHD. That's what they'll call it today. He probably had a little bit of ADHD, but he was the guy that stayed awake overnight to keep watch for predators. He was the guy that could do everything. He was a superpower guy. He never got tired. He was always on point. But they would call that ADHD, okay? You know, Jimmy, whatever, I don't even remember the names I gave them. You know, he probably had OCD. He kept things in order. He had a plan for the tribe. John, he was the autistic one. He observed and analyzed things for survival. You know, these things are not mental health issues. They are human characteristics. But therapy tries to label everything and tries to minimize it down to a problem and medicate you, making you numb and relying on the medical system and depressed, and you're no longer a functioning member of society, which also, you know, you can tie that into, if you have a sick society and a weak society, you have a society that will never revolt, that will never stand up for their beliefs. You have easily programmable society because they're already depressed and anxious and numb anyway. So they can't revolt against you, which is what I believe is the end goal anyways. So there's the answer to that. But normal human characteristics don't require therapy. An average breakup doesn't require therapy. You're not special for going through human circumstances. You don't need trauma therapy for experiencing the human experience. I'm sick and tired of every single person, average person I talk to, having this huge ordeal of issues. They make it their identity. Without their issues, what are they? They're nothing. The issues became their God. And now they worship those issues as if they are God. They worship them. They invest time and money just to go every week, minimum once a week, sometimes more than that, to talk about them. And if they're not talking about them to a therapist, they're talking about them to their friends and their family all the time, 24/7. It dictates who they are. It dictates their life. And that is absolutely ridiculous. And I can't believe that humanity has gotten to this point. Some women are fluent in psychological terminology, but they can't even deal with a real life conflict. They're going to have a breakdown. How many times do you see reels or TikToks or all this junk on social media with a woman talking about boundaries, healing, trauma, attachment styles, red flags, nervous system regulation? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm sorry to do the hand stuff. This makes me passionate because it's ridiculous and no one talks about it. At least no women talk about it. And that's where the biggest problem lies. I don't see a whole bunch of men signing up to go to therapy. And to be quite honest with you, men probably require more therapy than women because the world hates men. And the world is set up to hate men. The world critiques men more than it critiques women. And I don't care what you have to say about that. You can argue in the comments. I would love to hear your opinion. But from my analyzing and my observations, The world is out more against men than it is against women. And I'm talking about in the Western world. I'm not talking about small circumstances here. I've already made that clear in the beginning of the video. I'm talking about general terms, okay? Don't let that go over your head. Really understand what I say when I mean general terms. The world is set up for men to fail more than it is set up for women to fail. But women are the leading gender enrolled in therapy service. You can see how quickly a woman will get indoctrinated once she downloads TikTok. Because there's so much therapy talk bullcrap on that app where everything becomes a therapy issue, where everything becomes a psychological issue. Everything, from the way a guy picks you up for a first date, to the way a person looks at you when you order coffee. It's a whole problem, and these people are having breakdowns over the most mediocre human experience in the everyday life, and it's ridiculous. There's no way humanity survived for this long for women, and I'm going to say men too, because there are some men, to be having breakdowns over the most basic things. Some people do not need more introspection, they need more responsibility. Everything is not about you, okay? Everything is not about you. Stop thinking so much of yourself and how you feel. Stop putting yourself up here when in reality you're down here, if not below that, because you're not even on the above average thinking level. You're on the minimum medicated, numbed down, depressed thinking level, because all you do is think about your problems and ruminate on them and talk about them. Just stop it. Every feeling, every interaction, every thought doesn't need a huge analytical breakdown in your brain. Let the thought come, observe the thought, let it pass, and go on about your life. Or learn from it. Learn from the things that happen to you. Stop sitting on them. There's a great story in the Bible that I always like to refer back to if I'm ever having a hard time or hard season in life, and that's the story of Job. Look at that story if you don't know that story. So many things happened to Job that if you reverse the role and made those things happen to the average modern day woman, dude, she wouldn't be able to handle it. She wouldn't even know what to do with the stuff that happened to Job in the Bible. Okay? Job persevered. No, it wasn't easy. It's not supposed to be easy. Pain is what makes the human be a great human. Suffering is what makes greatness greatness. You cannot become great without suffering. Stop trying to skip the suffering part. That's why there's so many older people nowadays, middle-aged people that are absolute pieces of crap. Because they've never suffered in their life because they've done everything to avoid it. That's why so many people are valueless, substanceless. They have no opinion, they have no ambitions, they have no passions, they have no thought, they contribute nothing of value to society. They have no ability to look further than the next day because they've never gone through anything and they've never made it out on the other side. They've never suffered. No one great ever became great by not suffering. Stop choosing to be comfortable. Comfort is the biggest enemy of success. Comfort is the biggest enemy of life. Look what happens when you put tigers in an animal cage, or any animal for that matter. Look what happens to the animals at the zoo. They've been taken out of their habitat, they've been put into a cage, and now they're comfortable. They have to fight for nothing, they have to hunt for nothing. They're comfortable, and they die much faster than the animals in the wild. Why should humans be any different? Stop trying and chasing comfort. You are supposed to be uncomfortable. If you're not uncomfortable, you should be worried. If you're not uncomfortable and you can't remember the last time you've been uncomfortable, you need to figure some stuff out. Women, you're not supposed to be comfortable all the time. Now, I don't believe you're supposed to be uncomfortable in the same ways men are supposed to be uncomfortable, because we are not created equal. We are held to different standards. But you need to figure out what that thing is for you that's uncomfortable, and you need to face it head on and get over it, because life moves on, and life will continue to move on with or without you. You were not made to be a weak human being. Humans have existed for a long, long time. This whole weakness thing, this whole mental illness thing, this whole therapy thing is brand new to humans. So if you feel like you can't overcome something, just take that as a motivation to know that every single person before you didn't have therapy. They made it through. They were okay. You can make it through too. Stop holding on to these things and claiming them as your identity. They're not worth it. There's so much better out there for you. There are so many better things to pursue than your own issues. And I'm just making this video because I hope that someone's eyes can open up and someone's reality can change to be better. People would prefer to endlessly analyze themselves rather than find purpose somewhere else.